Welcome to Hair in the Hawthorn, and as you know by now, my name's Kate Ray and I'm your host. And tonight we have not one, but two guests together. So it's a double treat on this evening's episode. And we're still in that mini-series where we're looking at people's personal experiences to try and bring together, that the paranormal isn't that abnormal, that lots of different people have lots of different experiences. We have two guys who are well immersed into the paranormal world. We have Adam and Chris from Haunted Scouts. Now, we have already decided that we're going to do a bigger interview later on. As with all my guests that have come on, these people are far too interesting to let them go with just such a short snippet of their existence in the world. So we'll be having them back, but we will be rattling through just a couple of experiences that these guys have shared together this evening. So I want to, without further ado, welcome and thank both Chris and Adam from Haunted Scouts for joining me. Hi guys, how are you doing?
Hi Kate, thanks for having us on. Yeah.
You okay, Kate? Yeah,
I'm
not
good.
too bad.
Good. Are you ready to sort of? Do we know who's going to go first? Again, I don't know anything about this story. I heard a snippet of something that was very strange, that's intriguing, when you were discussing it before this recording. So, Chris, are you starting first? Adam, are you starting first? Where do you want to begin?
Are we going with tradition, mate? Age before
Through Haunted
beauty?
Scouts fashion, yeah. I think Chris usually does the waffling, and then I put the bits to it, and then yeah. But no, obviously Chris will start us off.
Yeah. So it's the first one is we were fortunate enough to film in 6 or 7 of Liverpool's best known pubs in the first few months of this year. An idea that we hit upon because the pubs were still closed. There's only 2 of us, so we could safely go into a pub and into an enclosed building, and we could film something. One of the pubs that we filmed in was a fantastic time capsule, and it's almost like a museum called Peter Kavanaugh's in Liverpool in Egerton Street. Now, Rita, who runs Peter Kavanaugh's, I say she kindly let us in. We did an episode, captured some fantastic evidence, which is ironically, up until this point, we were kind of saying that was our best evidence, which was poltergeist activity moving a trigger object that we use, which we'll keep that story for when we come back on. But we went back because we spent so much time in certain areas, and Rita wasn't opening because she didn't have an outdoor area. So we asked if we could kindly go back, and Rita invited us back. Now, by this point, we had been told by Rita about a spirit of a little girl that has been seen by a friend of hers who was a psychic medium. So we knew the exact area where we wanted to concentrate a lock-off camera, and the REM pod that Adam had been given as a birthday present. Because this is the good thing now as well. Everyone says, what bits of kit you need for your birthday and Christmas and everything. So we don't get socks anymore. We get paranormal equipment. But yeah, so we set up the REM pod in the exact place where Rita had said this little girl had been seen. And we went about the investigation. And then we got back to the room where this was. And then something peculiar happened with Adam's phone, which I will now hand over to the young'un to inform you about.
Yeah, it's just to add to what Chris was saying with Peter Kavanaugh's. It's such a brilliant little time capsule in the middle of Liverpool, and if you haven't been, it's just, you could spend hours just walking around and looking at everything that's on the walls. Some bits of kit there from about 100 odd years ago. So the first time we went, I mean, I was just looking up and looking around, so I wasn't really paying attention to actually investigating, to be honest. And we got some really, really good evidence from the first episode. But the REM pod, it's one of those things that I've always wanted, an Ovilus and a REM pod, and obviously the Oviluses can be quite expensive. But the REM pod was a bit of kit that I got, and we've probably had it now for a good 5 months, and it's been on a lot of investigations, and it's never gone off. So I've just fumed with it, thinking I've just wasted a lot of, because I know not all technology going off and things, you can investigate in different ways, but generally you see these paranormal shows and the REM pods going off and this is happening, you can't want to experience the same things. And I just thought this is just like a proper dud bit of kit that we bought. So every location I've got it out, switched it on, plunked it down, and then we've just kind of ignored it because nothing's ever happened. But just when we were in the vicinity of where Chris was saying this little girl had been seen, my phone activated, Joe, like when you'd say like, "Hey Google," and your phone would then say, "Oh, I'm sorry, the phone's in flight mode. It needs to be connected to the internet." So we were like, that was quite strange. And then within about 30 seconds of obviously talking about that, the REM pod that was next to us and went off. So obviously we panned the camera around to the REM pod going off, and we were like, "Oh wow, we've literally just heard that. We've seen it for the very first time go off." And then I think it might have been you, Chris, you said, and within about 2 seconds it went off again. So then we thought, wow, this is quite intelligent, this. So I think I said, if you're, it's just a girl that we're talking to. If it is, can you make it go off again? Instantaneously, REM pod went off again. And then I asked, is this a little girl that we're talking to? And then instantaneously, the REM pod went off again. So I think in the space of about 2 minutes, we got about 4 or 5 really intelligent responses from it, which was just absolutely mind-blowing being in the moments, because it's exactly what you'd see kind of on the telly, that you'd think this is what ghost hunting's about. And for it not to have about 5 months and then all of a sudden just come to exactly where we'd been told that something invested there, and then to the responses, I know you, Chris, just as blown away as me.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was the key thing to it, Kate, is that we put it there for a reason. So when it did go off, like anyone who watches that second Peter Cabanas episode, we're like 2 kids who've just been allowed in a sweet shop and told, "Help yourself." It's like you can see the joy on our faces of this piece of kit works, and then the realization that we were having direct communication and interaction with the spirit, because it was instantaneous. As Adam said, is this the spirit of a little girl? Off the REM pod went, and it's we don't mean you any harm. If you go up to the box on the table, if you go closer, it'll light up. Next thing, instantaneous, it starts lighting up as well as buzzing even louder. And it's just that whilst we couldn't see anything, the camera doesn't pick up any lights, any spirit. Our own eyes didn't. But that it sat there all night, and so I sit through and watch every second of a lock-off camera, just in case there's that 10 seconds that is worth it from 4 hours. It had gone off previously earlier on in the night, and we didn't know about this, that it had briefly fluctuated just after we'd heard some footsteps in that area. I mentioned that on the camera from a different part. But yeah, I mean, to be in that area and that to go off, it made the hairs on our arms stand up, and it was just that moment of euphoria. It was, how do you go from there and carry on filming an episode when you almost feel like saying, "Right, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching. That's it, done." But yeah, I mean, that was mind blowing, because it was technology kind of letting us know something was there. As Adam said, his phone was in flight mode. We just switched an app off that speaks, and we thought the app, it just said the words "my phone," and we thought it was the app. And when Adam said no, it switched off, showed it to camera, and then I never use anything like "Hey Google" or anything like that. But then Adam said maybe it was that. Sometimes if you say "Hey Google," and then it said your phone is in flight mode, so we knew that's what it was. So what triggered his phone to react in the first place when we weren't saying anything on the episode that sounded like "Hey Google"? And then from that point around to the REM pod, you know, so was this his little girl's spirit, and she had somebody to play with. You know,
Yeah.
it was a phenomenal experience.
I think for me, those sequential experiences where it's not just a one-off bit of tech that's giving you some kind of evidence, and even when you get on a REM pod, when you get that interactive type of evidence, when it's very intelligent responses that you get in, and it's almost like, you know, you can try your hardest to debunk it, but it's very, very difficult. But when you get two devices that kind of marry up in a situation, it then kind of really compacts your belief in what's occurring around you, and it's incredibly exciting when that happens. It's things like, you know, if you get an EVP at the same time as you get fluctuations on a Mel meter, or, you know, it just confirms that little bit more that there is something paranormal going on. So I can totally share your excitement with that one. Was there another one that you wanted to talk about? Another experience?
One of the more recent episodes that we've had on was one of Liverpool's oldest pubs on Dale Street in Liverpool, and it's called the Saddle Inn. And it was a difficult one to start off with because it was later in the spring. We had to wait for it to go dark. Dale Street's a very light street anyway. It literally is the main street in Liverpool city centre, leading down to the river. And we interviewed Jeanette and who runs the pub. And then once we were left alone, we could finally get a feel for the place. And when I say we were left alone, the amount of times we commented to each other that we didn't feel like we were alone, but not in a malicious way. There was just a curiosity. And again, as we found in a lot of these pubs, Kate, is these spirits hadn't seen customers, some of them for 12 months, because some of the pubs just didn't bother opening because it wasn't worth the while, or they'd shut in the late summer, early autumn, and not reopen because the restrictions were all over the place. So we kind of got the feeling that in a lot of these pubs, the spirits were just happy to see us. You know, what are these guys up to? But in the Saddle, we constantly felt like wherever we went, the equipment was going off. The REM pod again was, unbeknownst to us, the REM pod was going off. It literally went off its head for a good few minutes. But we were in a different area, had no idea it was going off. So we had it kind of correlated with what we were experiencing. You know, different sounds. We heard voices in there. We had it's the first time we've had the EMF detector. We had a lock-off camera. Adam hit on the idea of putting a lock-off camera on some playing cards, and we put the EMF detector on a cat ball there, and nothing was happening. And then all of a sudden, because it's a digital EMF detector rather than the ones with the lights across the top, and nothing was happening. And then all of a sudden, from 0.0 for a solid hour, it started to fluctuate up to 0.7. Then it went all the way up. I think it was 2.4 it peaked at. But we didn't know this because we were either stood at the bar doing a piece to camera, or another section we were around the other side of where this table was set up. There's no electricity in the wall. It was literally a wall that leads down to the toilets, which are in the basement, and it was just leaned up against the wall. So we couldn't. First thing we do, as you know, Kate, we'll go around and we'll try to find, especially now we started to use more kit, what's going to set off the EMF detector, the REM pod, and things like that. Like we've discovered, if we use the walkie-talkies in close proximity, that sets them off. We discovered that by default. We thought it was the first time the REM pod had gone off, and it turned out not to be. It was the walkie-talkies. So we know that now, and we keep them away from it. But yeah, we had a very, very strange experience, as unbeknownst to us, in the basement, in the cellar. The REM pod had been going off. It went off solid for about 90 seconds. It was actually that active, the REM pod, that night. By the time we got back to it, the battery had drained on it. And we put new batteries, 9-volt batteries, in all the equipment. We never use second-hand batteries, even though we know they're still good for power-wise. We got given a tip a long time ago, always use fresh batteries. So we know it was a new battery. And at the point when we went to move the REM pod, that's when we realized it was drained. But it's what kind of, I'll let Adam explain about, the fire exit light and what happened when we were walking back up the stairs in the saddle.
Yeah, I think investigating the pubs, it's been fantastic. But you do feel like you're chasing shadows a little bit, and you're hearing the noise. But because it's the really small, quaint boozers that we've done, I just kind of pass it off. Captain Skeptic. It's someone outside, and it's so a lot of the time it was like. With the Peter Cabanas one that we just talked about, it's like chasing shadows, and then you just get that moment where something happens right in front of you, and it is like, wow, fantastic. But Chris was saying when we first went down into the cellar, we were just in like a little holding bit in like an office, and then there's a door just directly next to it which leads into the main bit of the cellar. We put the REM pod, and then we were on the other side of the door. I had the camera, and we were both in shot. And we were saying, can you try and make the REM pod go off? And then just at the bottom of the stairs, the fire exit light was behind us, and the fire exit light went off. Now, obviously, the fire exit light should never go off because it's a health and safety thing. And we did, once we finished the investigation, get that confirmed. There's no timer on them. It's never gone off. It should always stay on. But when asked for something on demand again, electrical, it literally just, we were like, hang on, why has it gone darker? And we realised that the sign went off. And then that's when we discovered going into the cellar, the REM pod had also been drained as well. So whatever it was seemed to be jumping through electrical device. So on our way back up to change the battery, it was, I went first, because I'm the brave one, and Chris followed. And then just as Chris got to the top, it sounded like, Joe, there was the extra 2 steps like behind us, and it was gone. Do you only think 1, 2? No, who was that? So it was like someone, was upstairs with us when the EMF was going off, and then we went down, kind of followed us down, and then followed us back up again. So it was, again, it's really hard. To debunk stuff like that, and I will try my very, very best because, as we talked before, I'm not 100% a firm believer, but when there's things like that, you think, no, it's really hard to explain that. So, but being in that moment, it is surreal, and obviously it's why we, like you've seen on some of the episodes that we always tell the people who watch. We don't get anything, we're not going to fabricate it. It's just, it is what it is. We both paranormal, so we just wanted to produce something that people can watch, and and I think that's why we like us, because we are as genuine as they come. So
where can people find you guys? Because you do document everything and put it out there for people to watch. And you were saying to me before this that because there's 2 of you, you've got 2 camera perspectives, so you've got no real room for any kind of doubt of what's going off because you've got 1 camera on each of you. So where can people watch your episodes? Where can people find you?
The main place is our YouTube channel, which is simply Haunted Scouse. We're all over social media. I do the Instagram account. We both look after the Facebook account. Adam does Twitter and TikTok. So we've tried to kind of cover all bases of where we are. But yeah, the YouTube channels, that's where we release all the episodes, and we do try to fit some live investigations or live chats in as well. And we do them across all platforms just to try and reach as big an audience as we can.
I do want to say to people watching this, I'm super interested in technology and the pros and cons of technology. I wrote an article a while back for Haunted magazine on the pros and cons of it, and it does fascinate me. So I want to know viewers' ideas, thoughts about technology in the field. What's your favourite bit of kit? Do you think it works? Is it something that you think hinders? And also, I'd love to know people's comments about these guys' experience. Have you been to the pubs that they've been to? Have you seen their work on YouTube? Go and check it out. Come back, leave a comment here. I will be getting these guys back. We will be chatting in depth about more about their investigative work and their background, and because I want to know more. I want to hear more stories, because I know there's loads more in the bag that we can come back and chat about and have a bit more time to do that. But for now, I want to thank you both so much for joining me and coming in and sharing with us and giving us this opportunity to introduce yourself on this channel. And I hope the experience has been okay enough for you to agree to come back and have another chat with me another time.
Definitely,
No,
Kate. It's been brilliant.
Yeah, honestly, Kate, thanks very much. As we said at the start, we've seen the people that you mix with and that you mingle with and that you investigate with, and these are the guys that since we started we've been watching as well. So no, thank you very much for having us on. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure, absolutely my pleasure, guys, and I shall see you soon. Very well, I shall book you in as soon as I possibly can. So enjoy the rest of your evening though, guys, and thank you so much.
Thanks, Kate.
Thanks, Kate.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Bye.